Welcome to the Broncos podcast with Troy Rank. I'm your host, Troy Rank from the Denver Post. It is a victory Monday for your Denver Broncos, opening the season with a 20-12 win over the Tennessee Titans and number one overall pick, Cam Ward. As I told you, number one overall quarterback picks are now 4-15-1 in starting their first game in the first game. He was never going to win on the road. The defense was absolutely dominant, put in horrible position over and over and over again, and it did not matter. But the offense raised some serious concerns about Bo Nix's play, the offseason additions, and Sean Payton's play calling. It's game one, but that's all we have to go on right now. It's all I have to go on right now. And they have plenty of time to prove me wrong. As I wrote in the Denver Post today, I'd encourage you to check out my column regarding this, but their offseason was designed specifically to address needs to make them better. And I'm not sure if they're headed in the right direction in that regard. And they cannot play this way and win on the road against even functional teams. You're not going to lose the turnover battle and win on the road. But the defense showed up, showed out, even without Dre Greenlaw. The offense made enough plays, especially in the second half. But what are our overall takes? What are you thinking, Broncos country? Reach out to me on Twitter at Troy Renck, TroyRenck. So let's break it all down. The defense, Nix, out of sync. And of course, Peyton's, at times, bizarre play calling. That's coming up after the break. Have you been hurt in a car wreck or injured at work? What are you waiting for? Give my friends at Hoggatt Injury Law a call. Their motto, with us, it's personal. That's because it is. I've known Darby Hoggatt forever. We used to travel the country watching our boys play baseball, coached his son in hoops. Darby became a good friend. Many of his clients become his good friends. You don't even have to pay Darby up front. If the case goes as planned, Darby, he's going to be the one writing the checks to you. Again, if you've been hurt in a car wreck or injured at work, you want an expert? You want somebody that knows what they're doing and will fight for you? Call Darby. His team's at 1-833-HOGGATT. That's 1-833-464-4288. Or visit the website at hoggattlaw.com. All right, welcome back to the pod. Hope you're having a wonderful start to your week. Thank you for listening, Broncos country. Your support of this pod means the world to me. I don't know how many years it's been now, probably 5. And I would not keep doing it if I didn't feel like there was an audience for it and that wanted the content and appreciated it. And you guys are always great in making me feel welcome and making it feel appreciated and needed. So, and this is a terrific season to want to follow the Broncos. After all the wandering in the darkness for 7+ years, finally the playoff berth last year, this year is different. It feels different. And Sean Payton set those expectations that he believes this team's capable of winning a Super Bowl. So when he frames it that way, that's how I see it and contextualize it. If this were last season and Bo Nix was making his debut and won a game the way they won yesterday, say, hey, you got to win ugly in this league. They're not all going to be beauty pageants. But when you view yourself as a Super Bowl contender and you're playing the team that had the number one overall pick in the draft because they were 3-14, it should look different offensively. And we're going to get to that in a second. But first, let's start with the positive. They did win, and you need not ever apologize for a win in the NFL, especially the Broncos, again, since Peyton Manning retired. And they won for a simple reason. Their defense, outside of really the first series, was absolutely suffocating, just menacing how much talent this group features. Nick Bonitto signs a new deal, and he generates a career-high 9 pressures, a couple of sacks, signs a deal with Nike, so apparently he's going to go by Nike Bonitto. I kid because I care. He said in the locker room after he signed it a couple months ago, but they wanted to announce it with the opener and the new contract. And I mean, that's great to see when you pay a guy and he's like, this is why you paid me, instead of you pay a guy and he goes into operation shutdown. Bonitto has a first step that is just absolutely difficult and a handful for tackles and tight ends. It is. First play of the game, He rushed in and got a tackle for a loss on a running play where he covered like 5 yards in about half a second and leaped on Tony Pollard. And you're just like, that's just different. It looks different. I covered Miller in his prime. Miller was a little more angular and his body built for the position. But for first step quickness, man, it's hard to beat Benito. I mean, he rivals, Elvis Dumervil in terms of just the first step. And that was just part of it. Zach Allen ended up with a sack, but it was just the idea that the Titans had the ball cross the 55 times and had 3 points. 3 points. Broncos finished with 6 sacks. They led the league last year with 63. That was a franchise record. They're back right on that pace again. Now, you're not going to get 6 sacks every game, but that won't be the last game they have 6 sacks. And Vance Joseph disguised his coverages as we expected against Cam Ward. He was blitzing. He was aggressive. He was pressuring the kid. Now, I liked what I saw from Ward from a talent perspective. His overall numbers were not good, not surprisingly. Making his debut against that defense, Ward finished 12 for 28, 112 yards. I will say this: he played a little better than the stats, if I'm being fair to him. But they just had no answer. They had no answer for this defense. And when you look at the Broncos, what was so impressive is a couple of things. Benito, the pressure from the outside. Pat Surtain essentially didn't give up a reception. I think it was 1 catch for like 2 yards to Ridley. He just places a do not disturb sign on one side of the field. You got Benito just, releasing the hounds, going crazy up front. Riley Moss looked like he did early last season in his coverage. And then you have a safety crew with Brandon Jones and Talanoa Hufanga. These offseason additions haven't really made sense yet. That one did. Hufanga, I think he finished with 9 tackles. He was everywhere. And Brandon Jones as well. Those two complement each other well because of their physicality, their aggressiveness, and they've really bonded quickly. They have almost an immediate brotherhood, where Talanoa admitted after the game last night that Brandon Jones is like, he'll never say this, he is the first guy in the room. He's there in the locker room. He's there at 4 a.m. He's getting laps in the pool. He's swimming. He runs all day. He runs after practice. He has like cardio forever. It reminded me when he was talking like Travis Hunter. This guy just loves cardio and just in crazy fit shape. He used to be a track athlete. I know that, but wow. But the way those two look together, very encouraging. But they were, let's be honest here, this defense was put in compromised position repeatedly. And even when the game was still in doubt, 13-12 at one point, and they're driving down in field after the muff punt by Marvin Mims, and you're thinking the Broncos can't play much worse offensively on special teams. A muff punt, and they allow a 71-yard kick return that costs them 3 points as well toward the end of the first half. Here they are in field goal range at the 26-yard line. And on 3 snaps, they proceed to get thrown past the other territory, lose 27 yards on 3 plays. That is just sickening dominating. That reminded me in 2015 when the Broncos were at Cleveland in overtime, and Peyton Manning threw an interception to open overtime, and the Browns were at like the 35-yard line. So had they kicked right there, it would have been, a 53-yarder to beat the Broncos. The Broncos were undefeated at the time. And on 3 plays, it was like DeMarcus Ware and Von Miller just throwing the quarterback back, and Cleveland ended up having to punt. Broncos go down and win the game. It reminded me of that. I mean, the stakes were lower. I mean, it's the Titans. It's at home, not the Browns on the road. You're not undefeated almost halfway through the season. But they just get put in compromised positions, and that continued all the way to the end. Broncos were up 20-12 with 1:05 left, 4th and 8 from their own 36. A lot of options on the table here. You can take a delay of game, push it back, have Crawshaw. Of all the things that went wrong with special teams, he was not one of them. He punted well, so congratulations to the kid because he was a concern in training camp and in the preseason. But you take a penalty, give him a little more space, and pin a guy. pin him deep, and then make him go, have to go 90 yards to try to tie you. That's one option. Nope. The other option is kick a field goal. Will Lutz has plenty of leg for a 54-yarder. Kick a field goal, make it 23-12 with, 55 seconds left. Your game's over. They're not going to score twice in that span, and Lutz certainly has the leg for it. Sean Payton, nope, don't want to risk a scoop and score, a blocked field goal in that situation. So he opts to go for it on 4th and 8. And they're facing zero coverage. He liked his play more than those other two options, is what he said. It's a very bizarre explanation. I think it's unfair to the defense, frankly. I love aggressiveness in play calling. There's a time and place for it. That play call, it wasn't the time or place yesterday. The defense had done enough. Offensively, at that point, you just punt the ball and give the defense a fair stop, or have it at the 8-yard line or 5-yard line, whatever it is, and go from there. And instead, they get zero coverage, all-out blitz, and Nix can't get set, misses Mims. Sutton was also open, but they're open because everyone's coming, but they're left open that way because they're going to get to you before you can get the ball off. So it's always deceptive. Like, everyone's wide open. They're leaving them open because they're going to hit the quarterback before he can get it to him. And so here we go. Titans have one chance, 36-yard line, to go tie the game. And here comes the defense again. Jaquan McMillan with the 6th and final sack. Strip sack. Broncos sealed the game. And hey, listen, it was an absolute explanation point for a menacing group to put the game away because that game was won on the defense. I just didn't like the way it was put. They should not have been put in that situation. But cap tip to Vance Joseph, continuing right where they left off in the regular season last year. And they're 1-0, and the Chiefs are 0-1. The Chiefs are in last place in the AFC West. So things could be a lot worse, folks. Broncos are 1-0. Chargers are 1-0. Raiders are 1-0. And the Chiefs dragging up the bottom at 0-1. Obviously, they're going to be right there at the end. But they're vulnerable. If you didn't watch Friday night against the Chargers and think they're vulnerable, you're kidding yourself. Patrick Mahomes doesn't throw deep anymore, and they don't run the ball effectively. And they've been chipped away defensively. They're not as good as they've been. They're vulnerable. And as I said last year, they were the worst great team I've ever seen in my life based on point differential and how games ended. They are a clutch team, but there's going to be some regression to the mean, and it started in week 1 where the breaks didn't go their way late. Chargers put them away. But the Broncos, they go 1-0 against the Titans because of the defense. But what was going on with Bo Nix? He went from believe to boring. What the heck? Let's get into that after a quick break. Listen, when you face curveballs from family challenges, divorce, legal separation, child support, alimony, custody, you need a lawyer who understands human dynamics, the courtroom, and is willing to fight for your rights. You need Ted Shih. Graduate of Cal Berkeley Law, Ted brings 40 years of courtroom experience and 20 years of family law experience to your corner. Ted has been a social worker, a police detective, but first and foremost, a trial lawyer. He has tried cases across the country and the state. He has taught young lawyers across the country the ins and outs of the courtroom for the National Institute of Trial Advocacy. Martin Del Hubble ranks Ted among the top lawyers in the country. You want an expert to navigate your family challenge? Call Ted. His passion is putting you first. Ted will work to settle your case if possible, but he's not afraid to go toe-to-toe in a trial to protect your interests. Ted can be reached at theoshih@aol.com. That's TheoShih at AOL, or 303-475-2981, 303-475-2981. Give Ted a call. He promises to respond to your concerns within 24 hours, 365 days a year. Welcome back to the pod. Well, you should feel good, Broncos fan, after every victory. You never apologize for a win in the NFL. But let's be honest, the offense raised questions. Bo Nix had a clunky and at times clumsy training camp. And some of the stuff I wrote about him being a little tight, him forcing things in practice. Is he being coached too hard? Is he trying to be perfect? Some of that was on display on Sunday. Nix ends up with 3 turnovers. His first 3 turnover game since the December win over the Colts, the Jonathan Taylor fumble game, if you will. And they won that game because the Colts gave it to him with that fumble. They won this game because the defense was menacing. But you rarely win when you have 4 turnovers. You will not win on the road with 4 turnovers. That's 100%. With Daniel Jones reviving his career with the Colts, they crushed the Dolphins. You're not going to beat them at home with 4 turnovers. Even though they're not considered a playoff team, it doesn't matter. The Broncos are favored by 3. Nix has to play better. So what did we see? In some cases, and Nick said afterward, he forced throws. He was too aggressive. The 2 interceptions, one on a high point ball to Courtland Sutton, he underthrew a little bit. The guy wrestled it away from him. The second one was he forced the ball into double coverage, and he got a little off platform. His mechanics got a little jacked up. He's got to be really careful and mindful of that. We want him to see him make athletic plays and the shortstop type play and that. But there's times when you open your shoulder and the ball sails on you. You want confidence, but you don't want arrogance as a quarterback. And there were 2 throws he wanted back. There were a couple more that nearly got picked. He's got to be better. But in saying that, it's not just him. I mean, when you look at the offseason additions that were built to help Nix, you're talking about a group that is Evan Ingram, the tight end, J.K. Dobbins, the running back, and R.J. Harvey, the rookie. Remembering, of course, there were plenty of options on the board when the Broncos had the first-round pick, and they went with Jahdae Barron. He got in 21 snaps yesterday. He's going to be fine. But at the time, it felt like a luxury pick given their needs on offense. And they waited all the way to into the second round to get Harvey. Should they have taken a Travion Henderson? Should they have taken one of the tight ends available to give them protection if Evan Ingram got hurt? And oh, wait, I hate injuries. Injuries suck. But Ingram's hurt. He hurt his calf. He hurt his calf on making a first down. The reason he was signed is he is just a demon on third down. He had 21 yards on 3 catches, 4 targets, and then he missed most of the fourth quarter with a calf injury. And my guess is he's going to miss time. Malcolm Roach just went on the injured reserve with a calf injury. Calf injuries are like hamstrings, almost impossible not to miss time when you injure your calf or hamstring. So that was disappointing. And you're relying heavily on Sutton and Franklin and Mims and to some degree a Pat Bryant. But this is what Kurt Warner brought up. We talked about in the podcast before and on my radio appearances on Mile High Sports. It's hard to view the Broncos as a Super Bowl contender when their number one option after Sutton, who's probably a 1 for only about 8 to 10 teams in the league, their next option is whom? Ingram's now hurt. Franklin yesterday, 6 targets, 4 catches, 44 yards. Mims, 3 catches, 12 yards. This is my point with all this. Like, somebody has to emerge as a consistent second target. Sutton had 6 for 61. And I don't know what the issue was with Tyler Bidet. He was active, not shocked he was active over Jaleel McLaughlin. Had been trending that way in camp. Sean Payton appreciates his versatility and his ability in pass pro over McLaughlin in that regard. But he was involved early in the pass game. Bidet ended up being targeted 6 times. He had 2 catches for 16 yards. He had at least 1 drop, and he and Nix were out of sync. So, like, your attack mode is Courtland Sutton and Tyler Bidet. Just say that out loud and tell me that's a Super Bowl contender. So Nix did not play well. There's just no way around it. He didn't. He forced a couple of balls, probably 4 or 5, and got 2 picked. He's got to be more cognizant of what the team's strength is, the defense. On a day when you don't have it, you're not on a heater, you got to put it in your back pocket sometimes and run the damn football. You got to run the damn football and understand what your strength is on this day is they can't score on us. If we play the field position game, that's a game the Broncos honestly should have won yesterday, like 27-3 or 27-0. There's no way that game should have been that close. But the Broncos insisted on throwing the football like crazy. And Nix, again, I asked him about the offense being out of sync, and he's sensitive to criticism. I'm sure it goes back to his days at Auburn. He doesn't like it, and I understand it. At the end of his press conference, he said, listen, it's on me. I have to play better. And no one's a more ardent critic of Bo Nix than Bo Nix. He doesn't like to hear it from us. I get that. I really do. But in this position, in this team, with these expectations, he's going to hear it when he doesn't play well. He's going to be asked about it. And he made some poor decisions. But Sean Payton, to me, is asking too much of him at times. When the kid's not feeling it, you got to be able to adjust on the fly and run the damn ball. They passed 17 of the first 21 snaps. At halftime, they had 22 pass attempts, 7 rush attempts. Does that sound familiar? Oh, yeah. It was almost identical to Seattle in the opener last year, where they had 22 pass attempts for Nix. In that game, he ended up with over 50, and they lost. Shock. This game, he had 40 pass attempts. There was no reason for Nix. He's 25 for 40 for 176 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, and his first lost fumble since he was at Auburn. And he blamed himself for that. Credit to Nix, pointing the finger in the mirror, saying he didn't have 2 hands on the ball, and Jeffrey Simmons swatted it out. But when he's out of sync a little bit, get him in sync by running the ball and building the line's confidence. And then, Mike McGlinchey said afterward, we weren't taking care of the ball. We didn't deserve to have the commitment to the run, and we need to show them that. But there was an underlying feel in the locker room that, like, hey, we're ready if you're ready to run the ball more. And the overall numbers looked okay, but ultimately the balance was off in the first half and really through 3 quarters. Through 3 quarters, folks, while you want to sit here and say the run game was fine, Dobbins and Harvey had 13 carries for 42 yards after 3 quarters. That's not going to cut it if you're going to take the next step. Fourth quarter, they end up with a 50-yarder from Harvey, and Dobbins had a 19-yard touchdown. That changed the stats dramatically, and there's something to be said to go back to it. But it wasn't like it was just ground and pound. It was one huge run, and longer than any run they had last season, which was great to see from Harvey. And then a nice scamper and a high step in by Dobbins. But it wasn't necessarily a commitment to run, as 2 bursts. They need to be more committed to the run, and that's where we finish up today. Nix has to play better. He's got to play better starting on the road, start soothing some of the concerns that we've seen all summer and training camp, that he's a little off, that he's pushing and he's pressing, and he's a little tight, maybe trying to be too perfect. Payton's play calling is part of that. That you cannot be and have this kind of imbalance. This isn't Drew Brees in his prime with Jimmy Graham and Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara and those types of weapons, Darren Sproles. They don't have that. They don't have those kind of weapons. If you're going to pass like that, they need guys that just get open and make it easier for him. I just think you're asking Nix to make everything work at times, get guys open. And, again, maybe as the year gets through, it's obvious that Franklin's a dude and this conversation becomes moot. But right now, I just think that you're asking a lot of him. And in Peyton's case, you just continue to put the defense in harm's way. And listen, people are like, why do you even bring this up? Why is it always Peyton's play calling? It's on the players. Players did not play great offensively at times. We get it. He's the one that keeps bringing up the run game's going to be different. And instead, yesterday, it was almost non-existent. The run game's going to be different. We're going to make a statement. And you rush 17 of the first 20. You passed 17 of the first 21 plays? Really? What kind of message is that sending? To me, it's like you're trying so hard to win a certain way with Nix, and you don't need to. You don't need to on certain games. There's going to be games they need Nix to win the game. And you would hope, based on what we saw last year, he'll be in position to do that a few times against really good teams. That's the difference from going, 9-8, 10-7, and going 12-5 and winning a division. There's also games where you put it in your back pocket, you run the hell out of the ball, and you let this defense just take over. And there's a way to win ugly without continuing to put your defense in harm's way. And I think that's the lesson that needs to be learned from that. When you look at this film is play to your strength, lean into it, get Bo going at certain times, sure. But don't be stubborn within the game, so stubborn that it prevents you from saying, you know what, this type of game, we're going to take the air out of the ball. Boys, buckle up the chin straps, put the fullback in, go to heavy personnel. Let's ram it down their throat. That's how you start to create an identity and a physicality up front. Hard to create that identity when you pass 17 of the first 21 snaps. And your quarterback's not necessarily in a groove. And it felt like you just got stubborn about it, that we're going to keep passing. I'm going to show you he's going to get hot. It's the old hitter. I keep giving him chances. Eventually, he's going to hit a home run. Yeah, but how many strikeouts did it take before you got to it? How many times did we not move the runner over and score the runner from third with less than 2 outs? Like, at times we have to adjust, play the little small ball, play it a little different, and adjust and lean into the strength of the team. Ultimately, they won. Not going to lose sight of that. Broncos are 1-0. But there's concerns because Dre Greenlaw didn't play. We don't know if he's going to be available. I'd be surprised if he played against the Colts, but they're going to need him against the Chargers and Bengals. Evan Ingram's now dealing with a calf injury. My guess is he's going to miss at least this week. Hopefully it's only a couple weeks. It would stink if he misses the Chargers game. But if that is the case, and now Troutman's your offensive weapon at tight end, then you've got to be able to have diversity of attack to be fair to your own defense. Make sure you're giving your defense its best chance to win as you try to figure out who you are offensively. That's the lesson from this game. Folks, listen, Broncos are 1-0. Enjoy it. So many times for the previous 8 years, Monday sucked. So enjoy it. But also be realistic about what you saw and what you want to see going forward for a team that, certainly the minimum goal is to win a playoff game this year. And now the real challenge starts this week at Indiana Jones, Daniel Jones, and the Colts, who are coming off an absolute just spanking of the Dolphins. Can the Broncos learn from it? Can they figure out how to mesh this new offense, find that identity offensively that best suits their own defense? Folks, I could not do this pod without the support and help and the sponsorships of Darby Hoggatt of Hoggatt Injury Law, Ted Shih and his family law practice, and my guys, Nate Lundy and Danny Bailey of Mile High Sports, who put this out on YouTube and at anywhere you get your podcasts, at Apple and Spotify. Broncos country, I do this pod for you. Happiness, that begins with me. Go out there and have a great day.